What is up, everybody? Welcome to NFTs in the Arena. You with your hosts Mike and John. Another week, another week of a lot going on in the crypto and NFT world, John. I've been reading quite a lot of articles of late. Got some cool things that I wanted to cover up today and obviously share with our audience. But first of all, how you doing, man? How's the week going?
Yo, what's happening, dude? Yeah, I'm super cool. How's it, everybody?
Yeah, guys,
Mm.
what's up? All right, so before we get into it, can everyone please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel? We're growing week on week, and yeah, it's super exciting things that we're going on. And I think Jonathan and I are coming into the swing of things. I'll be after the next 50 years, Gary Vee would say, you can become really reputable. So, Jono, the latest NFT news that I wanted to talk about, and it's something that I'm kind of envious of, and I'll explain to you why I'm envious of it, and we'll go back into that whole reason as to why I am envious about this particular topic. But I'll explain to you what it's about. So, there's an article that I read, and the author was the gentleman by the name of Frederick Volt, and he was talking about how NFT play to earn gaming is the most popular in India, Hong Kong, and the United Arab Emirates. So basically, where Dubai and Qatar is, after a survey that they had done. And I started reading into this and trying to understand what the NFT play to earn was. But it's essentially what it says. Kids are playing these games that is utilizing this NFT technology and the likes in order to test games, whatever it may be, but they're getting remunerated for this. And I know that people have been getting paid to test games for many years, but the reason why I'm envious of it is because I think when we were growing up, we didn't have that opportunity, which it would have been relatively cool. And it speaks to the conversation we had, I think, last week about how, well, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but how the modern day teenager or kid has the opportunity to start a business from their bedroom, right? And now kids are being able to earn money from playing games. But the thing that piqued my interest was that it's in these developing countries like India and Hong Kong, but obviously the UAE is pretty developed. But then you dive deeper and you actually try and understand which countries are adopting this, and they basically said that the countries like Cambodia, Vietnam, Philippines, Malaysia, Brazil, the adoption rates are relatively higher than other countries, dude, which is interesting. First of all, that they have access to the internet and can play on these games and earn these monies. But essentially that these countries are finding, the people and the kids are finding ways to generate money for their families.
Mm.
And I thought this is a great argument or a great point to start on as to why technology and NFTs in particular, because this is what the podcast is about, is going to change the way the world works in so many different facets. And last week we spoke about holiday destinations and the ability to buy and sell perhaps timeshare of some nature and to transact with people. And now, like, we're looking at the gaming world, which has obviously been spearheading the technology space for quite some time. But like the idea of people now generating revenue in these countries is incredibly interesting. And I mean, what is your take on this? Like living in South Africa, do you see this something as something that could happen there, knowing the background and the way the general societal um, issues that are playing out now? Do you think something like this is possible, or just generally what's your take on it?
Well, look, I think the main raw material there is time. So if you were to look at people that are in a third world country, most of them may have a lot more time because perhaps they're unemployed, they're looking for work, or they're just sitting around. So there's an opportunity for them to make use of that time to play these games and actually find some form of funding through it. So I see it as a top-down approach to try and mitigate poverty at a global level. For instance, if a whole country really is suffering from dire poverty. Were you to place that country on an NFT platform that allows them to earn income through supporting that interface or that protocol through playing a game, I see that as quite a very benefit solution, for the future. And
Yeah, but so just before you go
mm,
on there, I think it speaks to your point. Just to add a bit more information, is that in this survey that they actually ran, I think they said majority, if not all, are below the ages of 35, which speaks to your point where
mm,
it's not only young kids that are 13, 14 generating this money. It's guys that perhaps cannot get employment, like you're saying, guys that are our age, guys that are a
mm,
bit younger. And it's so weird to think about. Is like these guys are trying to create a life for themselves. So are playing these games, which is going to be utilized by people that can afford these games, right?
mm, mm.
It's a
Yes,
kind of interesting dynamic, right?
yes,
But
yes.
I suppose on the other end of that spectrum, some would argue that these guys are generating this money in order to fend for their families, and actually not they don't care about playing those games, but
Mm,
do they?
mm,
It's just it's obviously a very interesting conversation, but I like the idea of like they were saying NFT gaming and how it's looking at these age groups exclusively, like between the ages of I think 18 to 34-year olds that were Singaporean people,
mm,
35% of the population. It's interesting. And what I like about it is that it goes against the argument of what people were saying about NFTs and the whole hype around it, that it's a bubble,
mm,
because what's coming out of this, if it was a bubble, it's already popped that bubble, right? And now what's coming out of it is all the guys that are have the will and the means and the patience to create these technologies for industries to leverage and develop further. It's like I believe that we're following the same trajectory, and obviously in a somewhat different manner, where the phone book was digitized,
mm,
that
mm,
kind of
mm,
thing, like
mm.
taking stuff from paper-based stuff and making it digital. Now we're
Yeah.
moving into that next generation by taking stuff static and the likes kind of media and content and creating something so much better that can be utilized with utility and it's non-fungible.
Mm.
It's super exciting when you think about it.
I think so too, dude. And I believe we're still in a proof of concept phase, which with NFTs, it's just getting the consumer to understand the protocol of blockchain and how to make use of it. And yes, there are a lot of problems that a lot of companies and brands are facing in the space. And this is much like Web 1, Web 2, where there's a process of building towards the solution. And NFT as a whole is definitely a global solution, as a social truth at least. Like we in a position where we can now convey trust at a very binary level. And I do believe this is fundamental to our next step as sapiens.
Yeah, I mean, in saying that, like, what do you think is the next step?
Well, look, you see, like I was watching this chat with Gary Vee and Mark Cuban, and no one really knows what's the next step. People
Mm,
are just working towards their vision. For instance, one like Matic's a chain that's trying to compete with Ethereum and provide a solution with low gas fees, etc. And much like Pulse Chain, which
mm.
I'm more invested in Pulse Chain, but Matic is obviously a running chain currently. So that's just the space of competitiveness, which is going to excel the technology in each chain. It's much like we're having this chat about skateboarders in South Africa versus Americans, and I believe that the quality of a skateboarder is determined by their surroundings. If you're going to be the best guy or the best girl at the skate park, there's not much room for growth because you're not challenging yourself. People are giving you all the affirmation. You're not finding any scrutiny. You're not finding any failure. And I believe that's what pushes people to excel, as this competition. And with more and more noise happening in the space, more and more people are going to do cool things. And then the next person wants to do something even better. And that's what's going to excel and push the space. With this proof of concept time right now, it's just allowing the general public to understand that this is something we can trust.
Yeah. So, and touching on trust, we
Mm,
obviously captured that in last week's conversation of how obviously Generation Z and millennials are somewhat more skeptical to
mm, mm,
potentially
mm,
invest in the stock market and might side for crypto. I mean, there's no facts around that. I don't think we
mm.
found that, but I think it's a valid conversation to talk about.
And
And no,
like, I
go
want to
ahead.
touch on that Gen Z thing, because I've been reading that BuzzFeed is struggling to try and uh, portray news to this generation. And I find that this is going to be something that's going to be prevalent along most organizations that are trying to appeal to the Gen Z market. And if you look at it inherently, they're quite involved with gaming. And the way you convey messaging and marketing is going to be instilled in that kind of concept. Let's put it that way: the short attention span culture is where this NFT rise is really going to be paramount. Is appealing to that market, per se, because they're going to be a lot more open to trying this new technology as a way of life. Let's put it that way.
But like you're saying that, dude.
Mm,
Also, something that I think is worthy of covering here because you kind of touched on progression of society and culture, right?
mm,
And I mean, a lot of people would argue that the world has become soft in the sense that people take offense to the most simplest of things, and also people feel like they can talk without being held accountable.
mm, mm, mm,
There's various things around that, like Mike Tyson, Joe Rogan trying to cancel him, Dave Chappelle, and with this cancel culture.
mm, mm,
And you think to yourselves, with NFTs, the people that are creating and forming part of this culture, you would believe are the ones that are going to be the next generation that is driving and pioneering this technology.
mm,
I wonder how things like that impact the innovation, where people are reluctant to perhaps introduce a certain kind of product or technology because it may offend people in some way, shape, or form, whatever that may be. I don't know what
mm,
it is, but the way in which culture and society will shape the progression of technological innovation will be super interesting to actually comprehend.
mm, mm. That is a very valid point there, dude. That, like, global consensus, because with blockchain being so authenticated, the way we reach consensus will be perhaps communal, much like how things are right now. People are going to develop communities in this ecosystem. There's going to be the Ethereum folk, there's going to be the Matic peeps. And I do believe that's the future of community, much like what we see countries like today. We're going to look at countries as USA, South Africa. I think the future will be Hexicans, Maticans, or whatever.
Really? Wait,
I,
have you read something on that, dude? I mean,
no,
I'd
no,
I'd
no,
love
no.
to actually.
I,
Is
I,
is it so? Do you think it's going to become like a geographical thing
yeah, so
based on the?
I believe
I
people
see.
that are interested in, for instance, Hex, and they've developed their life around it, will want to be around people that are much like that. So perhaps Richard Hart will eventually invest in a space, like, or just the organization as a whole. This is not a short-term thing. Like, just countries, like how we see countries today based on parliament. I believe the future leaders of the world will be based on how they've created their blockchain community. Because if you think
Yeah,
about it,
and
if you have 40 million people supporting your your brand, if you have a token, or even millions more, and you've made them all affluent, or some to some extent quite financially sought, dude, that's a lot of power. I mean, as a whole, you could ask each person to put 100,000 dollars together and you can literally go and perhaps buy Ukraine. Do you get what I'm trying to say? There's a different kind of movement and potential movement of energy in the long term, and how the
Yeah,
systems work.
and what you're describing now is essentially this DAO, the decentralized
Yes.
autonomous organization, and you might see communities first shape up around this. But you
Yeah.
do get certain communities in certain areas of certain countries, not only here in the United States, certain parts, maybe in South Africa, where it's very Afrikaans in a particular kind of area where they kind of have a stronghold and run it
Mm,
as they like.
mm,
Like there's other countries around the world that do something similar to that, where they prefer to live on their own terms and they have a general consensus amongst the community where they don't have to adhere to the higher powers
mm,
of government and form part of this bureaucratic lifestyle. And I do believe that the communities that are forming in these discords that are forming outside of the stereotypical way in which people communicate, transact, and actually share for the greater good, these kind of things are going to sprout out in ways like you say. Look, I don't think it'll get to the extent of a country. Maybe over time, who knows,
yeah,
dude? I
yeah, I'm
mean,
talking like maybe
yeah.
years.
But the thing is, I
Yeah.
mean, why not talk about it, dude? I
Mm,
mean,
mm,
this is
mm.
the point. It is super cool just to think about,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
then you
yeah.
start thinking, will countries form like become allies based on the technology in which they've utilized as their main form of technology, that their
Mm,
services are built on, right? And there's one thing that I wanted to speak about, talking about how culture, how modern day society is shaping the way in which technology is being shaped. For the good or the bad, no one really knows, right? Everyone
mm,
thinks that for one good is too bad. I mean, it's obviously quite a heated topic. But when you think of like countries like North Korea, China, Russia, like very authoritarian, and they basically control a lot. The media, what can go out, and the likes. I mean, it's obviously so relevant now to what's going on in
mm,
the world,
mm,
particularly the continued demise of North Korea and the stories that are coming out of there, and then what's going on in Russia now, and the people not even believing that there's propaganda in their country, dude.
mm,
It's insane. But then you start to think to yourself, are they saying that because they're scared of the repercussions if they have to admit that they believe there's propaganda?
mm,
Although this got nothing to do with NFTs. What I'm saying is blockchain technology was built to create a sharing economy in which people can transact freely, where everything's visible, where nothing can be effectively duplicated or stolen from someone, right? This
mm,
was like the whole. I remember learning about blockchain a few years ago, and now it's become a different kind of beast, of course. But now, if countries that apply authoritarian nature and have full control, how do they implement the blockchain technology, which is essentially designed to go against what they actually
mm.
represent? And they'll, of course, find a way to manipulate that.
Yeah.
But it's such a like contradictory thing if you think about it.
It is, and fortunately, that's only dependent on that dude's term. So eventually, he's going to fade away. His time's going to carry
Well,
on.
Willie, dude, Willie, Putin's been around for like 20 years, and whoever takes over him, and then the Chinese guys, the same kind of
Well,
thing.
look, that's the advantage, or should I say, the potential advantage, is that if the new person takes over, it's easier to perhaps convey that message to that individual, opposed to someone that's already been in power for so long. Like a baby boomer is going to think a certain way. So I think the next person in who's it, Lu Tong or whatever, that North Korea position is going to be a millennial. It can't be a baby boomer. It's impossible unless the dude's going to, or the chickie is going to pass away 5 years from then. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you're going to get a new young blood in eventually, because that's going to happen.
Not
How
in a
they,
country like North Korea, maybe in a country like Russia, I would say, or China has
yeah,
more of.
look,
Yeah, I mean,
let's say,
we're talking about crazy lines here, which is super funny, to be
no,
honest.
definitely.
Yeah,
Like
it's
it's,
super. I mean, like, yeah, it's
yeah, if that
interesting.
guy passes away, bro, in 15 years from now, you
Mm.
know what I mean? Like he's maybe his son takes over, but is his son just as bad? We don't know. So there's
Yeah.
the potential advantage. Is it's difficult to say. Maybe there's a regime. Maybe there's asylum. It's easier to fortify asylums with blockchain. You know what I mean? You could literally sign up the whole of North Korea onto a protocol and literally can provide them space throughout the globe through the form of NFTs, if that were to be an option, you know, hypothetically. Like, I don't think a lot of people know what's happening over there. Hence why no one really wants to get involved. But I do see blockchain being a solution to something like that, even though they're
Yeah.
opposed to it, you know, indirectly. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, no, that I didn't think of it that way. But I mean, we went off on so much of a tangent. But I think,
Yes,
yeah, I mean, we definitely went into like geopolitical with
yes, yes,
a
yes.
splash of some technologies. So everyone that's watching.
Oh,
But
brilliant.
there was one more thing I wanted to talk about, and there was yeah, there was one more thing I wanted to talk about before we end off was that there was obviously with this explosion of NFTs and these projects and these collections, there's been a mad amount of hackers and fraudulent
Mm,
stuff going on, people being scammed and so on. And there was a guy with like the term of the or the title of the article is labeled as "Hacker Tastes Own Medicine as Community Gets Back Stolen NFTs." And
yeah.
they kind of talk about how it all started on a Discord channel and the hack of a cross-chain gaming development studio on Uncharted NFTs, what they say, were scammers that managed to drain 109 users' wallets. See, this is where it speaks about the trust, and you would think where technology is now and the ability that these scammers are having or
Mm,
possess to hack is it's worrying, right? Because
yeah.
it goes back to something that we spoke about previously, where people have put their life savings into crypto.
Mm,
That gets stolen. What happens then, man?
yeah.
Yeah, we all know that that's a very scary topic. So anyway, the scammers got away with 150 plus Solana tokens and 25 world Solana tokens. They're all NFTs. They're called WOS, and a collection of 2,222 unique um, heroines is what they say. Anyway, a significant amount of entities were stolen and a large amount of money.
Mm,
And this community managed to band together and almost fool the scammers and managed to what did they say? They they got the scammer out by essentially putting the non fungible tokens that were common at a peak of the NFT boom, and they were saying that they overpriced it. These guys listed it, and then everyone bought it, and they undervalued it in a way.
mm,
I don't
mm.
actually understand the true thing that they're saying here because I have half the article. It's not
Yes.
allowing me to read. You know, when you try to read past the article, it's not
Yeah.
showing you the
Yeah.
article. But it's super funny because what I'm saying is it goes to our conversation around community and how people had to band together. But
Mm, mm.
this is the beauty of what's going on, and that's obviously the dark side of what's going on. And
Yes.
it's almost like the yin and yang that's kind of happening. But it's such a cool thing to learn about how this community banded together to
Mm.
almost scam the scammers. So there's a cool story to end off with if you think about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Look, I think that's amazing. Vigilante style, dude. Um,
Yeah, it is like vigilantism, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
On a digital non-fungible way.
Yes, it's super cool, man. And I think it's people will definitely try and find the solution internally if you've lost so much money as a group. So yeah, that's awesome. And I like you
Mm.
mentioned, there is potential for this cyber hacks and all this type of stuff. But there's also perhaps flaws in the code. And this is where we through trial and tribulation, we as a community or as a global unit will eventually be able to solve those back end issues. Um, cyber security is a huge thing right now, especially in
Oh,
Web.
it's massive. It's massive, man.
That's huge, bro.
I actually have a friend that I've met you from Saudi Arabia. His name's Usman, and he has a company that does cybersecurity for Cisco.
Okay.
Cisco's huge, dude, and I mean, like, he's constantly busy, and I can only imagine the amount of money that industry is generating. I know large organizations are, it's probably one of their top investment budgets when it comes to the technological
Mm.
security.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw with Maersk in 2017 when they had the cyber attack, it crippled the whole transportation industry because they
Mm, mm, mm.
own a lot of terminals, a lot of the vessels in which the containers were on. Everything was completely wrecked, and it put the company down on for a few weeks, costing hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Now, the ability to tap into something that is valued on a cryptocurrency on Ethereum and stealing that Ethereum so much more easier, and it's more difficult to be traced.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the defense of, or should I say, trying to solve it is a lot more difficult than, for instance, in this day, in reality. Um, this is
Yeah,
why the way people create chains and the way they code around bridges and all these facets that pop off the main blockchain, that's where the scrutiny lies. That's the weak point. So we will need to, as developers and whatever, solve that, do that right, spend more time on getting the code right rather than trying to get to market and push hype. Rather focus on longevity. And this is what's one of the key reasons I'm a Cardano investor is because of that. Like just doing it right from get go.
yeah,
Charles Hoskinson doesn't give a crap about hype and price action and all this. He wants the code to work, and that's inherently what matters. And he focuses on that. And much like Richard Hart, the difference with Richard Hart, he's just one of those effortless guys, bro. He just gets things like perfect first try kind of aspect. Let's put it that way. So yeah, I do see that being the future of trying to mitigate cyber hacks is just putting a lot more time and effort in making the code work and have no backend issues. Let's put it that way, or should I say, gaps for people to actually tap into and drain users' wallets. It's not cool.
nah, dude, it's actually it's frightening when you think about
Mm,
it because you generally do not know who to talk to actually ask where to start.
exactly.
Like if your money gets stolen from a bank, it's quite obvious what you have to do. It's on
Mm,
the back of your card or it's on the internet. So
yeah.
it is something that I think a lot of skepticism will remain until there's they're gonna have to put laws and policies in place, and they are already starting to do that.
Mm,
And it has to be government because if it's not government, it's going to be the wild west, right?
mm,
And whether you like it or not, I mean, when I say govern, I say it very loosely. I mean, I don't
mm,
mean to the point of what the current financial system is, because that's the intention of this. I'm just saying more security measures in place whilst people actually learn how to actually transact and safe keep their money,
mm, mm,
because it could become a significant issue. But having said that, Jono, we've come
mm.
to the end.
Amazing.
Episode 7 done. Boom. Everybody, thank you for listening to Jono and I. I know today we went on a quite a actually funny tangent, but anyway, we're growing, we're learning. Come along with us on this journey. Please like and subscribe to our channel. Please like the video, and yeah, look forward to seeing you next week, Jono. Any closing remarks, as we always do?
Of course, brother. You know what? The only benefit of technology is when it benefits the people.
There you go, dude.
Much love.
And having said that, over and out.